This is Scott Jentz. Welcome to Sandbox Stories. Hello, welcome to the Sandbox Story, which is an interview with Dr. Stephanie Johnson Brown. Dr. Stephanie, welcome to Sandbox Stories.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Your stories, I think, are just going to be fascinating. You're the daughter of an optometrist who started his practice in 1959. I want to hear a little bit about your dad and his involvement in the Chicago community.
Well, my dad, the late Dr. Robert Johnson, was really a remarkable man. He was a pioneer in several areas, including, our church, as far as, of course, the city of Chicago and the field of optometry. So he graduated in 1951 from college at one of our historically black colleges, Xavier. And then in 54, he received his master's degree at the University of Chicago. And then he graduated from the Illinois College of Optometry in 1960. He joined a practice that was already in place with his partner, Dr. Henry Moore, who also in his own right, he was a pioneer and had many firsts. And that was, I think he finished from ICO, which wasn't even called ICO then, in 1956. So they joined together when he graduated. And while he was not still in school, he had a vision to service the underprivileged. And he started a non-for-profit in 1959 called the Plano Vision Development Center. Well, at that time, it was called Plano Child Development Center, but we referred to it as Plano Vision because it kind of got confused with the child, thinking it's a daycare. So Dad began there, got a lot of support. He was very involved in the community where the practice was at the time, and he did a lot of things as far as doing school-based vision information seminars and teaching teachers how to work with their kids in the school and what to look for. And to this day, I have people coming and remembering what he did in the Woodlawn Experimental Project. I mean, that was the community that the practice began in. And they stayed there for several years until the 70s. Dad went on to become his political hat. And he was very much involved in the campaign for the first Black mayor of Chicago, Mayor Harold Washington. And he was a behind-the-scenes guy, but he knew how to play the political game. And later on, his childhood friend from school was the first Black county president here in Illinois, of the county of Cook. And that was the late John Stroger. And they were great friends. So he was surrounded by political type friends. And as a result of that, he learned how to work the system to help other people, not just himself. And that's what I loved about him so much. He loved to help those people who were less fortunate. He was able to get several contracts with Head Start in Chicago at the time, with the manpower, employment and training. That was the first time I literally saw doing eye exams outside the office actually mobile. And that was, oh my gosh, that was in the 70s. And he was so inspired by that, he connected with one of our city colleges. He started an optometric technicians program, 2-year program. Trained techs because we didn't have it, and the ones that we had where they weren't African Americans. So this was predominantly African Americans serving the African American community. So he did a lot. Then he went on with his optometric profession and did so much. Very involved with the AOA, the National Optometric Association. He was one of their presidents early on. And he was right there towards the beginning of the forming of the NOA, which was in 1969. So I think The second convention they had was here, actually in Chicago, and it was like a unity. He was able to bring a unity of the doctors, the minority doctors in the South who were NOA started, to the northern doctors, and they kind of were together for a common cause. And that's what I want to see continue happening. All optometrists, whether you're a minority or not, but we all work for a common cause. We can have all kinds of different, divisions where some of us are more social media savvy and we have Facebook pages to do the same thing, and others are very heavily involved in associations like the AOA, NOA. But I think we can all work together to service people. It shouldn't be a competition. We should all work together. So he was awesome, and I miss him really.
Yeah.
In fact, that's kind of how I became an optometrist. In fact, I always tell students to, whatever your passion is, you want to go into law, you want to go into dentistry, whatever you want to go into, try to work in that area. I, for example, thought I wanted to be a teacher because what do you see? Teachers. And my mom was the best first grade from preschool to second grade teacher. That's all her experience for over 30 years teaching. And I thought that's what I wanted to do. So I guess my second year in high school, I went to work with her in the summer. And I said, this was fun playing in school, but this was not like I saw how she had to deal with the administration, the parents, and how it's not just 2 or 3 kids. She has a whole classroom of kids who need attention. And I said, oh no, I'm not doing this. So then I had an opportunity to work in Dad's office, later on, when I was like a junior, senior in high school. And then I fell in love. Oh my gosh. I fell in love with the specialty area of vision therapy. It was wonderful just to see these kids. I mean, total personalities change, total, their grades change, their behavior change. And I said, what is this? So I started working as an assistant in vision therapy. So that's how he kind of, without saying you're going to be an optometrist, he just allowed me the opportunity. And as an owner now, you know how it is. So, like with my employees, I'm not just an owner that hasn't done it. I mean, I have started from front desk, optical store, cleaning the bathrooms, doing whatever it takes to be involved in a practice. So my employees can't say you didn't do that because I've done that. So,
I love those stories of how your dad influenced you, and your mom did too. And you said that you're one of 6 kids. You're the only one that went into optometry. You've got siblings that are teachers. You've got one that followed your dad through the military and is a colonel in the military. What was growing up like with that family, and what influenced you to not go towards, say, the military like your dad had and your sister has?
Oh, well, early on, I knew I didn't want to do the military because I went camping. I hated it. I was just like, I can't do this outside stuff. And then I have a sister who was a devout physical ed teacher. I exercise, but I'm not just robustly into it. So I'm like, okay, this is not the area I want to go in. So no, but I think all of us worked in the practice at one time. He get everybody's experience in some capacity. Even the only boy, my brother, who was a accountant before he retired, but his love is really swimming and helping seniors or young children learn to swim. So he has a true passion and compassion for that. So when he retired, that's what he decided to get a job. I said, why are you working? You don't even need a job. He says, because I love to do this. And so I think that's what my parents instilled in us. It's like, you have good work ethics. You try to do something that you're passionate about and, do the right thing. And when it was time to go to college, it was never, well, are you going to college? That was not part of the discussion. The discussion was, which college do you want to go to? That was basically. Everybody was going to college, so everybody did. So,
as parents, that's what we want. I hear a lot of optometrists who have a teacher as a parent. I don't know. I think there's a want in optometry to be educational and to be fulfilling to those we work with. So that's wonderful. So let's shift to the Plano Vision Development Center. You talked about it as a not-for-profit. Why
Correct.
was it started like that? Why has it been run like that?
Okay, so as you know, we have a private practice which was begun with Dr. Henry Moore. That's the Plano optometric part of the practice. But there were so many children in the city of Chicago, even Medicaid didn't pay for a lot of services. So my dad, who had this love for vision therapy, would go to these conferences, and he gained all this knowledge, had all this training. And he would see how kids of means could receive this. And he said, well, our kids need it too. And so as a result of that, he said, so we can just start as a not-for-profit, we can raise money, and then we could qualify for different contracts where you had to be a non-for-profit in order to get the contract or to get the grant so that you can support this service and people can pay what they can afford to pay for it. Because I got to admit, when I do the same thing, I go to conferences, and yes, I mean, I'm just going to tell any student, if they really want to make money, even though there's the facade, don't go into this particular specialty because it's not a money maker. I see so many of them that they're good and they make a lot of money in specializing in this area. So it can be done, but you have to go beyond what you learn in school, and you have to learn to network and be willing to do a lot more outside of your office training in order to get to that point. So with that said, that's kind of why I think Plano got started. And then he called it Plano. You know why he called it Plano? Did you realize? Because
I mean, Plano's an optical term, but why did he call it that?
Yeah, because of a Plano lens. And he says,
okay,
a Plano lens is a neutral lens. And Plano is people come there regardless of what their color is, what their sexual orientation is, regardless of their culture, their age. It's just open to everybody. And that's how he came up with the word Plano.
That's so, great use.
And then he kind of taught me, even though, unlike him, I'm not a natural politician, even though I've learned how to be a more political person because you got to do it to get things accomplished, even in the city of Chicago, especially. So he later on, I guess it was maybe in the 80s, he said, well, they need to pay for vision therapy too. And we kept writing proposals and trying to meet with legislators to get the state of Illinois, because they paid ophthalmologists. Even though we know it's not much, it's the principle. Why aren't we getting paid? So finally, one day, the whole group from a big group from the state capitol came, from the medical team, and they met with us. And Dad and I were able to do a fantastic presentation where we let them feel what it's to be like one of these kids. And then in our conference room, there's a one-way mirror, and it just so happened as we were ending our meeting, therapy started, and we could open up the one-way mirror, and they could literally see these kids doing the activities. And then they said, oh my goodness, this is one thing to read on paper, but to see it. And I guess by the end, in a couple of months, then for Medicaid was open to optometrists, so you could bill for vision therapy. Even though, like I said, it's still not very much, but it's the principle. If you want to, you can still do it. Even though a lot of people make a lot of money doing vision therapy, they really don't accept it. So that's why places like Plano is needed, not just for Chicago, but to inspire other doctors in other parts of the country to give service. You may not start a not-for-profit, but you can give services. You can. I know a lot of doctors talk to me, and they do it secretly because they don't want people to know. But as a whole, I feel optometrists are some of the most giving and care about their patient doctors that I know. So they do give back, and maybe not in this way because this is difficult. A not-for-profit is very difficult, because everybody doesn't have. Like we have a family member that's a pretty big supporter, And everybody doesn't have a big supporter like that to kind of be a base. And then and we have so many little community supporters that I guess we've been doing these benefits for Plano since the 70s. And every year until this pandemic did we have the annual benefit. And it's not like it makes a lot of money by itself, the event, but I mean, from 100 to 200 people attend, and they're like small people in the community that kind of support the event. And that's, to me, that's worth a lot. And then last year, I felt it last year when, we were one of the offices that were looted after the George Floyd, all of that whole type of thing came out last year. And that was heartfelt, but it gave me a lot of opportunity to speak publicly on the news, in the media, work with legislators to say, no, we're staying in this community and we're going to still service our patients. So
that's compelling. And to the idea that you're giving to the community through dealing with all the people who need, in a Plano, neutral way, all the people who need these services is important. You alluded to a family member who's spoken for you. You have a nephew who's a prominent young man in the sports world whose story got shared because of success that he and his team had in sports. Has that helped focus any additional public understanding of vision therapy and the importance of good visual development?
Not in our community as much to me, but I know when Larry first when he went to that Super Bowl in 2009, they didn't win, but
Yep.
They came up second.
Close. Yeah.
So they were close. In fact, it was a very close game. But afterwards, he was interviewed, and they asked him, you innately are a really good wide receiver, but what else happened in your life? And my dad and I did not tell him to say this at all, but he actually said, well, early in my life, when I was in elementary school, I would go home, to my parents' home, which is Chicago, because he grew up in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. And he says every summer I would take this thing called vision therapy. And when I'm doing drills, we do different types of routines, and he reminded me of what I did in vision therapy, some of the same. So at this young age, he received this type of treatment, but basically to help him be more focused and to help him do better in school. That was the purpose. Who knew he would be a great athlete later? And then, of course, he had the blessing of being able to associate with some great players as a ball boy for the Minnesota Vikings. And he really learned how to visualize. He really learned how to focus, be aware of his periphery, slow it down, and make those hands and eyes work together. So he's a great, and he became made such a statement. He did allow the AOA to acknowledge him, and he made statements for them. And right now, to this day, the College of Vision Development, COVD, actually has a plaque that different doctors in the in the specialty area, they purchase it, and as a result of purchasing the plaque, they put it up, and a lot of the kids see it, and then they know him, and then they say, oh, if he took this, I'm going to take this, or if he thinks vision is just great and important, I'm going to take care of it, even though he didn't have to wear glasses, but he thought a lot about people making sure that they had quality vision service. So when I go to some of those offices or into the schools and colleges of optometry, and I go into the department and I see his plaque, that's where I see it. But within our local community, we don't really have, I have plaques up for him, but and then people see it. But now, he's been in the profession a long time. But the kids who are really into football, they still really know, and he's not here, but it's surprising how many people really know him and of his talent. So,
yeah.
So it's been helpful to be he's been great. I'm praying he retires very soon, hopefully this year, and then I can kind of bug him to be more of a supporter and spokesman, not just a financial support,
Yeah. Tell me
So,
about your presence in the Chicago public schools. It seems like optometrists could take a page out of your book in becoming involved with the schools, not only emphasizing the importance of good children's vision, but how vision supports all of their endeavors. Tell me a little bit about your work in the public schools in Chicago.
well, we have been in the school systems, even the poorer school districts in the suburbs, since as long as I can remember. So we've been doing mobile vision exams. And then I was approached by Chicago Public School Systems to work with one of their contractors to kind of manage the program, come up with a comprehensive eye exam that could be done mobile. And that could include doing a dilated exam and not only dilating and making sure their eyes are healthy, but making sure prior to the dilation that they don't have an oculomotor problem, they don't have a fixation problem, they don't have a problem with focusing, not just a refractive error, not just giving them glasses to be nearsighted or because they have astigmatism, but also do they need these lenses to focus? Do they need it to be in a bifocal form? Because if they keep the glasses on that they need to see far, then when they read, it makes their eyes cross. So to manage and to help the doctors that I manage to kind of prescribe and think functionally, not just the way we're trained a lot medically, that's been a challenge, but it's been rewarding. And it carried over from so that we can kind of extend it. So I think the last year of course, that didn't, school wasn't the same, of course, this year. So it wasn't there. We didn't have it this year. But even the last year that we did it, we did mobile vision exams for over 50,000. And what we noticed is when we were initially in a building where the kids have to be bused, they waste a lot of time on the bus coming in, because Chicago's a big area. So depending on where they're coming from, then a lot of traffic going and coming. And it was just more effective and efficient to go to the children and to, just to purchase the lanes of equipment so that can be put on a tripod, put up. But I mean, you can do everything and you can hire your assistants, and the doctors really just basically did the exams because you had assistants doing just what you do in your own office, just preparing them. So you just had to do your particular job. So it was very, and I'm just praying that other cities pick up on it, and a few other cities do it also, do a mobile program. So, and even if they don't, if they just start with their community, and if you practice in a community where the average house, is $600,000-$700,000, go to an area and talk about this area. This whole relationship to vision and learning and behavior, and even eye health. Talk about to the seniors how glaucoma is a silent killer. You don't even know you have it. So educate and go educate people who may not have gotten this service. So, and I think there's something every optometrist can do. I mean, don't say, "Oh well, I'm not going to start a non-for-profit." You don't have to start a non-for-profit. Do something.
It's a great way to give back. Optometrists are they have a wealth of information for both young and old alike. And just to take some time to block off an hour or two in the schedule. Yes, our production revenue changes, but the give back is so important. I really appreciate it.
It is so rewarding. It really is. You don't know how many patients, like you may work in a community where the patients are aware, but I work in a community where patients say, "I've been going to the eye doctor. They never told me about this. Well, you just need to." And if you don't do the specialty, that's fine. I don't do a lot of specialties, but I refer. So if you can just refer, that's awesome. In fact, I can't do this alone. I have had so many doctors, associate doctors to help me, and my partner. Who out of the four of us is still, he's kind of retired, he says, but I mean, he is retired to private practice, but he is on faculty at the Illinois College of Optometry one day a week, and Joseph McCrae, and he does do it because he has a passion, and both of us have that same passion within our practice itself, and what our prayer is that practice can just now be passed down to another doctor. Like my kids didn't choose optometry, But I have so many, what I call my kids, in the optometric profession, that I've mentored, and I've now opened our doors. We have an externship program. I've had some of the best externs in, and basically, hopefully one of them will come out and say, okay, we have this passion for and compassion for community service, where we want to mix, and our practice is so old that we have a mixture. So we have patients who can come in and spend $600-700, and we have patients who just say, oh, I just want my Medicaid glasses. Just show me those, and they're out the door. So, I mean, it's a range, and then you have your private insurance. So, and it's a way that you can mix the two and still be successful. Will you be as rich as the people who take no Medicaid and take no private? No, you will not. But you'll be rich in other ways, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You said that some of your former patients have become staff in your clinic. Have some even gone on to be ODs?
Oh, yes. Okay, so yes, okay. Yes. Some have gone on. So I've had one of my head vision therapists years ago. She went on and graduated from PCO, and she is now a practicing optometrist. And in fact, I just lost my head vision therapist, and she began optometry school this past year. And then another one of my mentees is going into optometry school this year. So, but the one thing I can say about my therapists, they become so good, and we have such a great reputation when they do leave, because with our office being a community practice and with the non-for-profit, we can't compete with the pay. So when they get an opportunity to go, I encourage them, so this is a stepping stone, and they learn really good work ethics. They learn passion. They learn what real good service is. So they're not like our patients who go other places for a 5-minute or 10-minute eye exam, or an exam that's all technology. They see the doctor 5 minutes and technology does the exam. And they love the family. And in fact, some of the externs have said, my goodness, these people, you got generations here. And and they come in, and I think when they see, one of the externs told me in the past, she said, the thing that I learned the most from you and Dr. McCray is that you guys have had this practice so long, you have a personal relationship. You can talk to a patient about their mother and now their grandchildren, and they get to see that. Optometry is a specialty in and of itself, primary care, but it's personable if that's what you want. If that's the type of setting that you want, that's how it can be. And I love it, but, I'm at this end of it, and so I am ready to slow down and kind of pass that torch along.
Well, you never know. Maybe one of our viewers will reach out and be inspired and connect with you. But I want to talk to you about a bit of advice I felt like you gave me when we talked before our interview. You said that optometrists should be a little bit careful or thoughtful about how patients react to them, because sometimes the patient will act like we're their psychologist. And you said, your dad had a real keen gift of picking up on observations of people. So give me a little bit more of that advice about how we assess patients and how we work with them through the patient experience.
Right. So I used to watch my dad do exams, and he could, all of us who way back in school, we know about the 21 points. And basically that's like base out and base in Burgesses and PRA and RA and Forias, but how to tie it all together and how that to really understand that the eye is a window to the mind, and to really understand why if visual pathways are over 70% of the brain, why could it affect emotion? Why could it affect behavior? How is this all possible? And how can it be so integral involved in a traumatic brain injury patient, and you bringing them back to more of the way that they were? So he would do these exams, and after he finished, he could tell the patient, you're really tight. You really need to take a break, maybe have a vacation. What's wrong with you? Are you under a lot of stress? I'm like, how is he knowing this? And even with the children, parents didn't even, like, he had a history, but maybe he didn't even look at it. But when he finished, he could tell the child, boy, you're trying so hard as you can, but you're really not getting much out of that trying. And I'm looking at him, how did you figure this out? And he, so eventually I learned how to do the same thing. But what I also learned is you have to be careful when to share that information. Because what happened is they'll come back the next year and after your exam, because you forget you did it the year before, and they say, okay, how was it? Did I look stressed? Did I look too relaxed? Did I look unfocused? So, or you'll get into the point, or you'll have them crying. I mean, I've had so many patients just break down and start crying. Or I've had kids who understand, like, wow, you know where I'm going to. And my parents are just telling me I'm lazy and I'm not trying. You get it. How do you know that? Did they tell you? And I said, nope, they didn't tell me. And so sometimes you just have to observe the patients and know if they're going to be receptive, and know if it's going to help them for you to and people have told me before, I don't think it's it. They say, you have discernment. I'm like, I don't know if it's discernment, because I'm not doing it just walking down the street with people.
Right.
Normally I do it in my exam room,
Right.
So I think discernment would mean that you can do it no matter what, in any kind of situation. But mine happens more when I'm, personally in there with the patient. So yeah, that's a kind of strange thing that I didn't think I would be able to do, but and that's what I hope, and that's why I take the externs in, because I want to share with them, because they come out and they're so, oh my gosh, disease-wise, they are so fantastic. Anything so they see, they're like, think it's the worst. And I said, or when they see so much normal, I said, welcome to the real world. This is an optometry school. This is like where people, they're coming there because they are sick. They're being referred. But you're into like a Joe Blow comes in. So most people you dilate, they're going to be fine. And then when you do get one that you can help, I've seen them so frustrated, because now in optometry school, you can do different things. But here, they have to say, okay, what can you take their insurance? Can we do medical? Can we do an OCT? And, then they get a little frustrated while I say, well, that's all part of the battle now. You got to go and fight with the legislators, with insurance companies. And, basically.
Welcome to optometry.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that your dad was at the founding basis of the National Optometric Association. You followed in his footsteps and were also a president of the NOA. For those who don't know much about the NOA, tell us what it does.
So the National Optometric Association is an association of primarily underrepresented minorities. It's predominantly African Americans. And its mission is to advance the visual health in minority communities. And that's a pretty big goal. And they do that by trying to get more students of color into schools and colleges of optometry. And they also do that by supporting their different associations. And when you're an optometrist and you kind of need some support, they're there. Or if you're a student and you're just getting out, they're trying to help you to make that connection. So that's what they try to ensure that patients, especially underserved patients, get quality exams. They don't just get this quickie stuff in and out because they don't have money. They get a comprehensive exam. And I think some people, and this is what I've seen, because I've volunteered with different organizations and to do exams. And I think the doctors mean well, and that they're doing really good. And okay, well, these people, they're at least doing something to get them to see. Well, that's fine if you're in an underserved country, but you're in the United States of America. So look at everything. Look at function as well as the whole physical aspect of them. And so the NOA does try to ensure that people get these types of exams, not just, a half exam. And so NOA has been really a blessing to me. I just pray that it's after our founder, it was two founders, Dr. Howlett and Dr. Powell, and Dr. Powell just passed this year. But after the founders have gone, and we have a lot of senior board members and members who have been past presidents or who have been heavily involved in the NOA, and they're still there on that battlefield. And I just hope the younger generation will continue to work in conjunction with the NOA, not against, not competing, but work with, and so that we can work towards a common goal. And that NOA learns to accept what the younger generation is doing. You know, the social media era, and this is a way to get more students in. Applaud, okay, and listen to them commend, and they've done this for me. You know, when I commend them, they'll say, well, you know, if it wasn't for you guys, you set the stage, you set the foundation. That's the harmony that I want to see happen. And then I want to see them step up. I want them to take these ideas they've had from various other groups or Facebook pages, and I want to see them work so hard together. We love the NOA. We want to keep it together. Now we're ready to step into an association role, because I don't think they realize that an association is different than a Facebook page. And an association, you can get more accomplished politically. You get more accomplished with insurance companies. You need that politically. That's what the AOA has taught me. And NOA is much smaller, you know, less than 800 members, but it's taught me that you have to have an association. I think if we can bring the younger generation together that has done such great jobs, like with For Brown Eyes and Black Eye Care Perspectives, if they can all come together, NOA will be blown out the water. I mean, it would just grow so much. But I just need to see our young generation invest in the association. So whether you are paying dues to the AOA or whether you're paying dues to the NOA, if you can't do anything else, you can support them financially. NOA dues is it's so much less than the AOA dues. So at least if you can't belong to both, at least belong to the NOA. And NOA doesn't discriminate. Anybody can be an NOA member. You don't have to be an underrepresented minority. So a lot of my colleagues are not. And they believe in the NOA, and they continue to pay their dues. So that's just my prayer. That's what I want to see happen before, you know, I leave this earth. Okay.
Well, I want to have you give some additional advice. That's a great summary. You also feel really strongly that optometry's greatest opportunity would be to expand on what you call the functional approach to vision care. And I know that optometrists understand it, but you live it. So give it to the audience. How do they think about that functional approach and embodying it in their patient care every day?
Listen to your patients. You know, do what we're taught in school. Listen to the chief complaint. Don't just look for the physical complaint. Oh, you mean your eyes itch? No, listen to everything. And that's one of the key things when my externs approach me. I say, well, what do they do? Then they look at they look at the information sheet, the case history, and they say, oh, they work at a store. I said, okay, so what else do they do? So the whole thing is see what their visual needs are. I mean, even if it's playing sports, they play tennis, and maybe wearing that progressive is getting in the way. You might have to do something with a contact lens and convince them, get a disposable to wear with tennis, or they play golf. I said, find out what they knew to help them perform. And it just takes a little bit more time to have that conversation. But I think you have to think about what can I do to help the patient function better. Now, as you go on, so, you know, as a result of me attending a lot of continuing education, especially like I did Bob Sonnet's PAVE seminars. That was over a year. That was, oh my gosh, that was fantastic. Everybody can't do that or go to as much continuing education as I do. But as a result of it, I have learned to prescribe differently. So yes, I know how to use different tints. I know how to use prisms a different way to get a patient to function better. So I know how to take a patient down slow. I know how to not have to cycloplegic every patient that's a child, because I know how to still use the art of retinoscopy, and to also take them down slow. Don't hurry through the exam and end up having the same finding as the autorefractor. So you just have to take your time. So that's my biggest advice. And I know in some corporate practices you can't take your time. So do the best you can do. And if you can't take your time and you need that child to have more attention, refer them. Refer them to someone who's going to take their time in the first place and do justice for the patient. So that's my
listening more and taking more time sound like excellent advice.
Observing your patient.
Yeah. So getting aside from optometry, what has given you the most joy in life?
Oh, watching all the accomplishments of my children. I mean, basically that's your offspring. So my husband and I have been so proud of our 2 kids. And then I finally got one grandbaby who decided to be born on our wedding anniversary, who just turned 2. So we love spending time with her. And then, of course, my children they're so funny. Because I give so much, they both said, well, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna make money. So my son was really funny. He graduated from DePaul in finance. And what does he end up doing? Going to get a master's in student affairs. So now he's giving back, working with students. And now he's at Northwestern as their director of social justice. So he's definitely into this whole movement. My liberal son. And then I have my very opinionated daughter who did the same thing. So she's going to go into law, make all this money, but what is she doing? She's a public defender, serving the people who have a voice. I mean, and she is a fantastic advocate for them. And she told me, I said, oh, yeah, you're defending these criminals. And she says, Mom, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. And even though they don't have money, they deserve a right to good representation. And I'm going to do the best to advocate for my clients. And that's what she does. So I'm really proud of her and a lot of her accomplishments that she's had. I mean, she just shared some information with us about an appointment she's getting to represent the public defenders. So the kids have done a great job. And so when you are parents and then you see that they give back and when things come up and how they share, then, and then you watch them grow and get their homes and get married. And so all of that has been a joy to me. So,
given how you have led your family and the loving life you and your husband have had, the family that you came from, it's no surprise your children are doing those kinds of things.
Yeah. And they have good work. So, I work with young people because I have a thing about, I started working in the office as a teen. And so it takes patience. And I could hire my friends' kids, like I used to say, because they already are very polished. And, they have a different background. So some things just came natural for them. But then I started thinking, I need to hire some of these kids where the office is. And give them an opportunity and teach them, even though they have to be street sometimes, teach them, okay, no, now you got to be professional. This is the way you have to speak, and this is the way you have to act. And you can't be on your phone all the time. You have to be punctual. So you have to teach them like and so my kids do that, and they have really good work ethics but they were around people that had it and that encouraged them to attend college and do their best. So that's what I just try to do that with the young people that I hire within the office itself too.
I have go ahead.
Sure. You go on.
I was just going to say, I have a last question I can think of, and that is, what's the best advice you've ever received from somebody? I think you've given a lot of great advice, but what's the best advice you ever received?
From someone? The best advice has been, continue to do what you're passionate about and you would enjoy it. It won't feel like a job, and if you start doing things that you are not passionate about, it's going to feel like work. So that's been some of the best advice. And my favorite scripture advice is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him and let him direct thy paths. And that's been my favorite go-to because I just have to keep trusting him because we've had a lot of ups and downs, and just keep letting him direct us, and things will work out. So that's the thing, and I'm just hoping that one day optometry becomes part of the health. What is it called? The Health Service, National Health Service Corps, which is basically a group of physicians and dentists who work in underserved areas, and after they work so long, their loans from their professional schools are forgiven. They're government loans anyway. And I'm just hoping, because it's no part of the budget, so it's definitely something both Democrats, for once, something Democrats and Republicans support. We just have to get our professional colleagues to let us have a part of the pie. That's the problem, because, of course, if they give optometrists a part, there's less for their physicians and the dentists to get. So I just pray that, and I just hope to see more federally qualified health centers in the country, so that in other areas, people who need service can get that really, fantastic service for not just vision, but for everything. And that's the direction that I'm hoping to go. In fact, when I do sell the practice, and I can devote more time to the non-for-profit, and I'm hoping to really work on a push for this, so that Plano can be sustained by students who want to work in that same capacity, but we can't afford to pay them. But if they are working in this non-for-profit setting, their loans will be forgiven. I think it'll be easier to get them to work, but that's a whole lot of legislative work, which I, in private practice, don't have time to do right now, but that's a goal. Then I'll have more time to just spend time with my, in fact, announcement. I'm going to have 2 more grandchildren this week. My daughter's having her second, and my son is having his first. So 2021 is going to be a great year. And they all are bugging me to, oh, Mom, you just need to retire. I said, why? To retire to babysit? Not so fast.
Dr. Stephanie Johnson Brown, your stories are wonderful. Congratulations on your expanding family. And thank you so much for sharing your stories. I really appreciate what you've done for optometry and for your communities. And I'm really glad you shared your stories with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott. It's been
my pleasure. And if anybody wanted to get a hold of you, how would they do it? How would they find you?
Well, they can email me, and they can always go to our website, www.planovision.org, to get more information on the non-for-profit. The for-profit, of course, is the same website, but it's .com. And they can email me. So my email is the initials of my name, S as in Stephanie, J as in Johnson, B as in Brown, vision@gmail.com.
Dr. Stephanie Johnson Brown, an inspiration. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And to my audience, thanks for attending and listening to Dr. Stephanie's incredible stories. Until my next Sandbox story, be great at all you do.